Everyone joining us today, whether you're tuning in live from around the world or watching this recording at a later time. A warm welcome to this public webinar hosted by the Accounting and Auditing Working Group. So today's session is an opportunity to share updates on our working group activities and to hear your valuable feedback on any key topics related to IFRS accounting and auditing standards and their impact on the insurance industry. My name is Lydia Kimomwe, and I serve as the Senior Policy Advisor supporting this Accounting and Auditing Working Group at the IAIS Secretariat. It's an absolute pleasure to be your guide for today's discussion. Before we dive in, I would like to share a quick note about today's webinar recording. This session is being recorded and will be made available on our IAIS YouTube channel and public web page for on-demand viewing, though it will not be available for download. Please note that any participant who chooses to share their image or audio, for instance, during the Q&A segment, will have that contribution included in the recording. For further details on how we process and retain personal information, please refer to our privacy notice, which can be accessed via the link that we'll share in the chat box. With that housekeeping out of the way, let's get started. It's my pleasure to hand things over to Zinech Mushegu, who's the chair of the Accounting and Auditing Working Group. Just into today's show. Over to you, Zine.
Thank you very much, Lydia, and welcome to everyone joining us online as well as in person today. So I'm going to start off just by highlighting the activities of the AAWG that we are currently busy with. And after that, I am going to hand over then to the stakeholders for their updates, and then we can have a discussion thereafter. So just briefly, so the Accounting and Auditing Working Group is a working group of the IAIS, which supports robust accounting, auditing, and ethical standards and practices. So what we do within the AAWG then is that we're responsible for monitoring relevant developments in accounting, auditing, financial reporting, or valuation requirement, and we also then monitor public disclosures made by insurers. We have three main activities that we're busy with as the AAWG, and I am going to go into a bit of detail on each of these. So the first one is maintaining our external relationships with accounting and auditing bodies. This would include the IAWSB, the IASBA, as well as the IASB. And then secondly, from an IAIS perspective, we're also responsible for developing, updating, or providing input into the development or updating of high-level principles-based supervisory and supporting materials that are developed by the IAIS. And then finally, we also monitor relevant developments in accounting and auditing, financial reporting, as well as valuation requirements and in public disclosures. Okay, so I'm just going to then, as I mentioned, go into each specific one. So in terms of our external relationships with accounting and auditing bodies, two aspects here that we are currently involved in. So the first one is the review of international standards. So here we do periodically look at the work plans of the international standard setting bodies. We look at the particular work that each standard setting body is busy with and how we as the AAWG can get involved in this regard, principally through providing comment letters for exposure drafts, for example. And also we are currently tracking the IASBA's work on ethics related to private equity investments in accounting firm, which is quite a key area of discussion at this point. From a global collaboration perspective, we also interact quite closely with the Global Public Policy Committee, or the GPPC, and this is for them for us to present issues that affect the audit industry at AAWG meetings. So we have in the past looked at or interacted with the GPPC, for example, in terms of developing guidance on areas such as IFRS 9 and IFRS 17, and we continue to interact with the GPPC in this regard. The second area that we are responsible for is on developing and maintaining high-level supervisory supporting materials. So this is work that is taking place directly within the IAIS. So currently the work that we are busy with is with regard to the development of ComFrame supervisory material. And here specifically, we are looking at two insurance core principles that we are looking at updating for ComFrame. The first one is with regard to ICS supervisory reporting, which is what is contained in ICP 9, as well as updating public disclosure requirements in ICP 20. So this work is specifically aimed at internationally active insurance groups. So we are currently busy with the updates of the ICPs to incorporate this work. So in this regard, we are currently busy with the updates, and we are consulting internally. And after this work is done, we are then going to go out for public consultation, and this is scheduled for December this year. Also around the same time, we are going to have pre-consultation activities, which will then involve having a webinar just to provide updates and address any questions that might arise from stakeholders in this regard. Then finally, on the third set of activities that we are looking at is the monitoring of developments then in accounting, auditing, and financial reporting. The main one that we are busy with at this point is from an IFRS 17 perspective and monitoring the implementation thereof across the various jurisdictions that have implemented IFRS 17. So in this regard, there are also ongoing efforts to support members, particularly from emerging markets and developing economies in this regard, in addressing challenges that they are having with relation to IFRS 17. And we've got a few activities planned in this regard just to support those member countries. We also then, in this regard, also collaborate with partner organizations. So, for example, we've partnered with the IMF as well as the BIS in providing targeted support for IFRS 17 implementation efforts. So, in this regard, also there are specific outreach or support activities that are provided to specific jurisdictions in partnership with the IMF. So I'm going to pause here then and hand over at this point for the stakeholders also to provide any updates that they would like to provide at this point, and thereafter we can then have a discussion. Thank you. Just trying to check if we've got any questions at this point. So can I maybe call on Doug? Doug, if you're on the call, just maybe if you can start us off, and if there are any updates coming through from your end. Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. I'll just check also if there are any questions for the AAWG then, if there aren't any updates from the stakeholders at this point.
All right. I'm not sure they'll miss anything. As I've spoken to in the past, and I really appreciate you giving me very early notice on requesting whether or not the GCG would be prepared to make comments. We did have 2 or 3 meetings, and we meet every 2 weeks. We had about 3 meetings to discuss this, but the issues are somewhat personal, because when we first got the notice, half of our group was on holiday, and then slowly started coming back. And of course, not only were they on holiday, but the members of their association were on holiday, because that's the nature, especially the more active participants in Europe. The nature of European holidays is they run through July and August. So there really wasn't the kind of timings to for them to go through what they might have gone through at other times of the year, and that's just it's going to happen once a year. There's nothing we can do about it. I've learned the GCG. We just live with it. So there are issues that are. So that's one part. The other part was that the AAWG is still at the beginning of consideration of some issues, and they haven't really developed the kinds of questions from their consideration of issues where they have reached the point where they want some feedback. So the combination of those two, and by the way, and the second part is that the IASB also has not reached the point where they want issues discussed. They're still working on developing discussion drafts on some issues that might be interesting. It's a combination of all those things have led us to where we don't have anything to put before the AAWG at this point. And I say that reluctantly because you know, and the other members of the group know, how appreciative I am after 27 years of running this GCG that the AAWG does permit us to have an open session. And we really appreciate that. And we feel,
Yes.
I personally feel somewhat embarrassed that we don't have anything to say. But I give you my word that in the next session, we will have something to say. So I hope you'll continue this process, and we look forward to communicating with you in the future. And that's all I have to say right now.
Okay.
Try to answer any questions you might have.
All right.
Doug, thank you very much for that. I just want to check if you can hear us. The room is now connected.
I can hear you fine. I have somebody have to speak in the room for me to hear it, but I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. We can hear you as well. So I just wanted to make sure. All right. And apologies for that. I did catch what you were saying, and I just want to summarize as well, just for the benefit of the members in the room also. So you did mention that the GCG had 2 meetings, but the issues that you discussed were more personal, and just in terms of this particular call, it coincided with members being on holiday. So with the members being on holiday, which was around July and August, you didn't therefore have an opportunity then to discuss any matters that could have been brought to the attention of the group. But over and above that as well, it's also because the AAWG is still at the beginning of consideration of some of the issues, and we as a group haven't reached a point yet where we can consult or solicit input or feedback from the stakeholders at this point, because the work that we are currently with is still work in progress, and we will be going for consultation at a much later point. So at this point, from a stakeholder perspective, there's nothing to give feedback on. Is that a fair summary of the feedback that you've given, Doug?
It's a very good summary.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So I guess then this is going to make the call very short then in that regard. If there isn't any feedback from any other members on the call, would it then be fair to say, Doug, that for our December meeting, because we do have an AAWG meeting then in December, and as I mentioned in my opening, at that point, we are also planning to issue the documents then for public consultation. So the documents that we've been working on, just to update ICP 9 and ICP 20 for ComFrame. Is that a fair then assumption to say at that point there should possibly then be items that we can then discuss as part of the stakeholder call?
Yes, that's exactly it. By December, there should be some issues that have ripened to the point of discussion, and both at the IASB and among our members and at the AAWG.
Okay. All right, perfect. So I guess let's then defer this discussion then to December. But as usual, then we will be in touch bilaterally. So if anything does come up before then, Doug, please do reach out to us, and we'll also do the same if there's anything else on our side as well.
And Lydia, as you know, the GCG represents some of the industry, but not all of the industry. So it's possible that there are some industry members who have called in today who would like to express some point of view on something. So I hope that you would open the floor to them, since I don't have any communication with them and I don't know what they do or want to do. I just know on previous calls, we have had other members of the industry make comments. So.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Just looking at hands. Do members have any questions? If you do, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Comments, feedback?
Are you opening this up to the industry or your?
It's open.
Lydia?
Yes, it's open. Can you hear me?
Yes, I didn't hear your answer. Are you opening up this to the industry to make comments?
I opened it to other members to make comments, yes.
Other members of the industry or other members of the working group?
The industry.
Okay.
Stakeholders who've called in, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't see any hands and nothing on the chat as well. So I guess it's safe then to assume that there isn't any further feedback from other stakeholders and no questions either. And if that's the case, then we can end the call at this point and pick it up again in December.
Very good.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see a question.
Got a question here.
Of the update of ICP 20. Okay, so ICP 20 is the public disclosure standard. So we are then updating that core principle just to incorporate, as I mentioned before, the requirements around ComFrame and specific disclosure requirements relating to IAIGs in that regard. So that is the update we are making to it, and it will form part of the consultation that will be going out on in December. Okay, there's another question. Okay, could you please give us the background of your work with IAIS? Okay, so the work that we are specifically doing at this point. So we do, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we do follow standard setting plans with the international standard setting bodies as the AAWG, and we do provide input where the work is related to the work that we do as the AAWG. So in particular, at this point, the interactions that we are having with IASBA has to do with private equity investment in firms, and following the work around that, we will be interacting with IASBA in this regard. The implications of private equity investments in audit firms at this point, and how that may or may impact the work that we do, as well as just audit quality broadly. So that is the work that we are currently involved with from an IASBA perspective. I don't see any other questions on the chat. So if there aren't any, then I guess we can then end the call at this point. And
Okay.
we pick it up.
Thank you again, Lydia.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone that dialed in. We'll chat again in December. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.